where do our loyalties lie?
So why Ahmadiyyat?
They're not fanatics, they're sick.
To make a better world for everyone.
With real stories,
There's nothing that I've done differently, I've just been me.
real issues,
Is it possible to be loyal to two different countries?
real views. This is Real Talk Canada.
Children are often asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And often you'll get an illustrious answer with a hyped up career, with a perfect lifestyle to go with it, along with all the bells and whistles that a child would be really excited as he looks towards his future. On this episode, we have decided to trail the journey of a special group of individuals who, for them, when the time came to choose that career, instead decided to dedicate their lives to champion the cause of Islam. With real stories, real issues, real views. This is Real Talk Canada. On today's episode, we're discussing dedication of life. With me today is an expert panel, along with a live studio audience. To my immediate right, we have Azhar Guraya Saab, 6th-year Jamia student. Assalamu alaikum. To his immediate right, we have Farhan Qureshi Saab, 7th and final year Jamia student. Assalamu alaikum. And to his immediate right, we have Maulana Farhan Qureshi Sahib, who is now graduated. He's the first batch in, first batch out, and currently missionary for York region, the largest region in the country. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Before we go any further, we're going to do a quick word on the street.
We have seen that God's promises are with His messenger. He will be successful. As we have seen in the past, He was successful, and He will be in the future.
You know, we all wake up in the morning, eat, talk to people, and in the end, after doing all of our doings, go back to bed. But how many of us lie awake and think to ourselves with gratitude that today I changed the world? This is why I dedicated my life. Because there are 124,000 prophets that put their blood, sweat, and tears into putting little bricks into the ground for the victory of Islam. I find myself at a time which the entire Muslim world, effectively Christian and Jewish world as well, has been waiting for since the very beginning. I find myself at the footstep of the grand victory of the religion of God. So in my mind, it's not even a question of whether I need to dedicate myself. To be a part of this grand victory, there's nothing greater. And so I've humbly submitted the only thing that I have to give, my life.
My name is Fahad Pirzada and I'm in my first year of Jamia this year. So besides from academics and studying all day, we also get the opportunity to use this wonderful facility that was made last year called Tahir Hall, and we get to use it 2 hours every day for physical activity. So therefore we get to stay healthy, stay fit, you know, it's mandatory as well, we have attendance, so therefore, you know, everyone's at the gym. It's really fun, you get to interact with the other classes as well. So you're seeing everyone, you're interacting, we're playing sports, staying fit, and also having fun at the same time. So this is a very wonderful thing that, you know, I never knew about Jamia before coming here. So they also have separate leagues called Ahmadiyya Basketball League and also Ahmadiyya Soccer League. And Jamia itself has its own team where we get to compete with other jama'at teams. So therefore, we also get opportunity for those who are more talented, and so they get to, you know, compete with people that are also at their level. So in that way, it's very good for, you know, people that like to play sports in a more competitive way.
You know, Canada is known to be one of the most multiculturally oriented countries in the world. And by the grace of Allah, this directly reflects in Jamia Ahmadiyya Canada as well. Aside from students coming from all over the actual country of Canada itself, we have students coming in from all over the United States of America, Europe, from Kababir in the Middle East, from Japan, all the way from Australia, even students who are Kyrgyzstani or representing Russia. All of this culmination is just another sign signifying the grandness of this blessed institution of Jama'at Ahmadiyya.
So, gentlemen, straight away, I want to get right into the historical importance of this institute we call Jama'at Ahmadiyya. And Farhan Qureshi Sahib, if I could ask you to shed some light, take us through those early days and really the inception of this institution.
The history of Jama'at Ahmadiyya starts more than 100 years ago in Qadian during the time of the promised Messiah ﷺ. What had happened in late 1905 was that the Jama'at had lost two of its great scholars, Hazrat Maulana Abdul Karim Sialkoti Sahib and Hazrat Maulana Burhanuddin Sahib Jilmi. And after their demise, the promised Messiah ﷺ felt that there was a need to make an institution that would produce great scholars who would devote their life to Islam and Ahmadiyyat, and also basically fill the gap that these people who were passing away were leaving in the Jama'at. So in 1906 January, there was a branch that was opened within the already existing school that the Jama'at was functioning, Madrasa Ta'lim al-Islam, and that branch or division of religious education was called Shah-e-Diniyat. And originally there were only two teachers, Hazrat Qazi Sayyid Amir Hussain Shah Sahib and Hazrat Maulana Fazluddin Sahib of Qadian. And then there were only 10 students. And from those 10 students, from that small, humble beginning, Jamia or Shah-e-Diniyat grew into Madrasa Ahmadiyya. It separated from Madrasa Ta'lim al-Islam, and then it evolved into Jamia Ahmadiyya or the Ahmadiyya University. So that was the humble beginning, and the promised Messiah ﷺ wanted to create scholars like those two individuals, those two great men, who were courageous in the cause of Islam, who didn't fear death, who wanted to spread the message of Islam to the corners of the world. So that's basically our role model, and Hazur basically defined that when he wanted to create this institution.
And really, chronologically speaking, it's been almost 100 years since that date, and 100 years later almost came Jamia Ahmadiyya Canada. And Farhan Qureshi Sahib, you were part of that pioneering group. And talk to us a little bit about those early days and that first institution that officially came to Canada.
Actually, Farhan Iqbal, Qureshi is my caste. You know, in the first days of Jamia Canada, you know, it was totally different, because right now we have an institution, this institution right here, just 2 floors above us. But at that time, it was in Mississauga, and literally some of my classmates, you know, helped in renovating the building and painting and doing all those kind of things. But one challenge in the beginning was the commute from the hostels, which were in Peace Village, all the way to Mississauga. So it would almost take us 45, 50 minutes, sometimes even an hour in bad weather to go to Mississauga and you know, every day, and then come back. So that was one of the challenges in the first days. Actually, yeah, so one of them I've already mentioned, the commute was a problem, but there were a number of other things. For example, you know, when 7 September 2003, that's when Jamia started, and you know, in the beginning, the first few days, we had very few teachers. And so, and the first principal of Jamia was Maulana Mubarak Ahmad Nazir Sahib. And, you know, he really established it in you know, at the grassroots level, you know, getting approvals for teachers and, you know, getting furniture and getting all those things. So starting Jamia in a number of ways and establishing a number of things in Jamia, the cooking, the schedule, the timetable, the administration. So all those things, you know, it was started in that first year with that first batch. It was
a little bit more organized now than
yes.
You know, what you were used to.
Yes.
So that being said, as a graduate, I want to come to you. You're in your 6th year in the new institution, which is built right up 2 floors above us. Talk a little bit about the new changes, being in a new building, which is right above us. It's a brand new facility. How that feels. I know you were commuting out to Mississauga as well, and now you're in the new facility.
Well, the new facility that has been built by the Jama'at for us, it's an excellent facility. As Farhan Iqbal Sahib was telling us, some of the difficulties that we were facing in the old institution was, of course, the commute. The age of the building also was a factor. Our old institution in Mississauga, it was in an industrial area, so we weren't allowed to make a lot of changes to the building. There were a lot of limitations that were imposed upon us by the city. But alhamdulillah, here, since we made the entire institution from the ground up, we had a lot of freedom on how we wanted to design the building and how we could operate. So upstairs, each class has its own separate classroom. We have a computer lab upstairs. There's a meeting hall, and our hostels are just down the street, maybe 2-3 minutes away. So a lot of convenience has cropped up for us now because of this new institution.
Gives you time to better and more focus on your studies.
Yes, because
and I want to talk about above the studies. Jamia is not just an institution of languages and theologies. It's more or less a lifestyle. You end up dedicating your whole life to it, and it sounds like such an overwhelming thing that you're giving up your life for this institution, and then of course the journey that you embark on after. And speaking a little bit about that, and one always wonders, what are some of the emotionally your mindset, what are some of the thought process that goes into when you decide, this is what I want to do? And Murabi Sahib, I want to start with you because you're a Murabi now.
Yes. Yes. Well, in the beginning, it's not an easy decision. For example, if I were to give you my example, it took more than 6 months to really make the decision and really choose the pros and cons, and because Jamia is, let's face it, it's not an easy commitment. It's a big commitment. You're dedicating your whole life, and you're basically saying that you have no will left, and whatever the Jama'at will decide for you in terms of where you will go, how you will stay, and what kind of worldly things will be provided to you, and all that stuff. It was just you really needed to make sure that you're making the right decision and you're determined to do what you are willing to do. So, but eventually, with the help of Allah, with prayers and everything, I took the decision, and throughout your journey, it's just the prayers that help you through all of these things.
We were talking about, in high school, in all these different fields, people want the best that they can possibly get. It's just a natural human feeling. So, of course, all of us come into life with these same feelings. So what we all felt, I think, before dedicating our lives was that we're going to dedicate our lives for something regardless. Everyone does. It's either to money, it's either to your family, it's either to the world. So why not dedicate yourself to a higher cause? So I think that's something that really rang true for a lot of us here. We decided that religion, that the religion of Islam and Hazrat Masih alayhi salatu Islam and Islam and Ahmadiyya was that higher calling that we were all hearing.
And for the most part, it sounds like in today's world, such an alien concept to dedicate your life to serve someone else. And I want to come to the audience, and I saw a lot of interest. I want to know that fascinating journey when you decide that this is what you want to do. And if I can get the mic up here, if you could just walk us through a little bit about your journey, that process for you and what it looked like.
Assalamu alaikum. Well, in grade 12, I started to just think about what career I want to pursue. So originally my plan was to go into law, but then thoughts started to arise that maybe what about Jamia? But I wasn't really that inclined to it. So I started praying. My parents suggested that you should pray and see what comes up. So I started praying, and after a month or so, I had a dream that I received 2 letters in one envelope, and one letter was green and one letter was white. So immediately I opened the green letter because that letter was from Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I opened that up, and the main idea which was in the letter was that you have been accepted for Jamia Ahmadiyya, and make sure you work hard and you keep up with your 5 prayers. And the other white letter, which was by Hazur Anwar Aizullah bin Nasr al-Aziz, I didn't get a chance to open it, and I opened my eye at that time. And at that time I decided that, this is the sign from God that I should pursue this career. At that time I did my own research, and then I decided to come to Jamia. The thing is, at the end of the day, you're not doing it for the people, you're doing it for the sake of God. Anybody who wants to come to Jamia, he should not come to Jamia for the sake of people, but for the sake of God.
Okay, we can just pass the mic over there. I'm really curious to find out, when you do decide this is what you want to do, what were some of your initial reactions, like what your initial steps? Did you speak to your family? Did you decide it on your own and tell your family? Were they supportive right away?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. When I took my decision, a murabbi in our family, in our jama'at, he used that quote once by Martin Luther King, that if a man hasn't discovered something he would die for, he isn't fit to live. And that made me think, because my original plan was to become a pilot and to go to the Air Force. But since I started thinking about that one quote, I started thinking that what is my ultimate goal? What is that thing I would die for? And since there was nothing I could find, there was only Jamaat I could find. And I was also the only Waqf Zindagi in my family. So I talked to my family about it, and they were really happy to hear this. And also my grandfather, he left everything for Ahmadiyyat. And his greatest wish before he passed away was that one of his family members becomes a missionary. And I'm the last one who has a chance to become a missionary, because all my other cousins, they're all older. So since I'm the only one who has a chance to become a missionary, everyone is really happy and supportive.
MashaAllah, that's a great story. And I want to come to my panel in the front. When somebody goes through that process, more importantly with yourself, and you decide this is what I want to do, what are the next few steps? Farhan Sahib, if I could come to you, please.
So basically what happens is, when you decide that you want to go to Jamia, there's an application form. Well, at least there was when I was admitted to Jamia. So I filled an application form and I applied for Jamia, just as I would apply for a university. And after that, I got a call from Jamia, and there was an interview subsequently. And after that, I mean, we had an interview and things just went from there.
Okay.
And, yeah.
And Murtab, I want to ask you, when you decided that this is what you wanted to do, what were one of the first few steps that you took?
Well, I spoke to my parents, like it has been mentioned, that you talk to your family about it. And on my family side, there was some caution that my parents said, make sure you know what you're doing, because it's a big commitment. It's not something that you can just become excited about one day and decide to do it, and then realize later that you won't be able to fulfill the responsibility that would be laid on you. So that is why it took me almost 6 months, or even more than 6 months, to make the decision, to make sure that I'm on the right track. And so I did my prayers and everything. So so that communication continued until eventually, when I took the decision, my family was happy with it, and they supported me throughout.
Well, I want to gauge some of the other Jamia students that we have here as well. If we can just get the mic up here. If you don't mind talking a little bit about that journey for yourself and what it looked like once you made that decision.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Alright, so when I first decided that I wanted to go to Jamia, it was about 2 or 3 months before. I was currently attending university. So I decided that, it's been past high school. Usually people decide that they want to go to Jamia right after high school. But after high school, I went to university. I was kind of in between going into physio or into Jamia. So I started praying, and I wrote a letter to Hazur as well. And after a month or so of praying, I realized that, you can get all the worldly material you want, but who are you really trying to impress? Trying to impress God. So putting everything together, I decided that I wanted to go to Jamia. So I sent in my application and all, and I received my syllabus, and I started preparing for this. And then eventually in the summertime, when I came, I gave in my interview, and when I went back home, everyone was very supportive. My family, my friends, they all knew the kind of person I was, that, that they were proud of me, that I was doing something that I believe in. And so I prepared myself for the last month that, I'm coming into Jamia now, and alhamdulillah, now I'm here, finished my first 4 months.
So this is your first 4 months that you finished?
Yep.
Okay, so this whole process is really new for you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that being said, I want to come to my panel in the front. As you go through that process and it's official, you get invited to come, and it's still, I'm sure it still sinks in at this point that before it was something you wanted. Now you're accepted, and that's it. And how is that process mentally? You know, when you pack, I'm sure you're packing, you know, though you might be physically packing your clothes, but really you're packing for the rest of your life. And Azhar, if I could come to you, how do you pack for that type of a mission?
Well, looking back, I mean, it was 6 years ago, but looking back even now, the thing I remember most is, you know, the first day of sitting on that bus going to Jamia, right? And you're just sitting there, we've been raised in the Western culture, so we're used to wearing, you know, jeans and whatever we want. You know, the first day you're going in your brand new white shalwar kameez, you know, your black vest and everything, you know, your janaa cap.
You have your uniform on.
You have your uniform on, you know, you're set, you're going, and you're just sitting on that bus, as Faransa was mentioning, 45 minutes to your first day, and you're just thinking, you know, what's going to happen, you know, what am I going to do, what am I doing here? It's 7 years down the road, right? But, you know, alhamdulillah, once you get over those initial jitters, you find that the Jamia lifestyle is something that gives you so much if you're willing to accept it, right? So, for example, we have the academics, of course. On top of that, one of the main things, the biggest things that keeps people here, I think, is, you know, the friendships that we make, the brotherhood that is formed within, you know, the people that are here. Because the people that are in Jamia are some of the most amazing people you'll meet. Our professors, you know, the students, the older students, the younger students. There's such friendship, there's such ties of relations that a lot of people, when they go home for the breaks, that's the thing they miss the most, just the people that they're surrounded by here.
Okay. But I want to come to you, and I want to make an analogy to you. A soldier goes to war, hoping to win the battle, and wants to come back being celebrated.
Right.
So when you go to become a missionary, you go, and that your mission is forever.
Right, right.
And your mission is started.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about that. How does one mentally take that in? That this is not a battle you go win and you come home and you celebrate and you come back to your normal life.
It's humbling. It's humbling, and I think it's what helps you through it is the fact that the Khalifatul Masih is behind you, and he's there and he's watching over us, and he's praying for us, and he has given us a guideline to what we should be doing in the field after we have become missionaries, and applying what we have learned in Jamia in the field as well. But, you know, like you said, it's forever in the sense that we remain students. You know, even after coming in the field, we are going to remain students for the rest of our lives. And Huzur Anwar, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Rasul Aziz, when we had a meeting with him, a private meeting, he mentioned the same thing, that don't think that your studying is done. It will continue till the day you die. So, you know, that process continues when it comes to learning more and more and gaining more and more religious knowledge.
Okay, and I want to come back to my audience here. You know, when somebody makes a commitment to something, you know, people nowadays, they make a commitment to their employer at their work and they find a new job. You make a commitment to other worldly objects, and sometimes you turn around on that. What does this commitment mean for some of you individuals? So if we can just get the mic right there, right behind you, I want to hear some feedback on what that commitment personally means for you.
Assalamu alaikum. Personally, like, this commitment, it's something that you have to have in yourself. Like, you need to believe in it yourself, because when you enter Jamia, you enter with the mind state that this victory is already foretold by the Promised Messiah, that within 300 years, that Islam is going to take over the world. So you already know that the battle that you're fighting for, it's already a victory, but you need to work towards that victory. And so we know in our hearts that this commitment, it will come true, but we need to work towards it. And to be a part of that victory is what you want to achieve.
Okay. And I want to talk about that because you don't find dedications like that in Western society to anything. Even relationships nowadays, married couples don't have that type of a dedication. So how does one have such a strong dedication towards just a being? And if we can get the mic up here, I kind of want to get some, I want to get some feedback on when you make that type of a decision and when you tell your friends here in the Western society, what type of a reaction do you get?
Assalamu alaikum. You find that most people are actually very positive. or at least the people that I've met, like, because everyone, they respect that they see that the greats of society, how Martin Luther King, he fought for the rights of his people. He fought for those people who were oppressed. Now, we are not fighting for someone who is oppressed, but we are fighting for someone, an entity greater than anything. So this seems very high and mighty, but it all comes in your dedication, and people see that. They see that what you are doing is true and sincere. And if you stick to it, then there's no way that God will waste you. Because if there is a God, and there is a God, so how would he waste those people who burned their boats just for him? How he can leave those people hanging?
Well, so that's a great point that he brings up.
I feel the same way, that even in this society, they appreciate the fact that you know, we have done this. And even my friends, you know, when I told them about my decision, they were obviously surprised, but they would also appreciate the fact that I could be so dedicated to a cause. And they know for a fact that if you want to achieve something in life, you have to be this dedicated. If you're not this dedicated, you won't be able to achieve it. And you know, since Islam is our faith, and we love our faith, and we want to spread it to the rest of the world, we have to have this kind of commitment so that, you know, we can make an impact. Otherwise, we won't be able to.
And talking about that impact, you know, what comes to my mind is here in Western education and Western Educational Institute, one of the key things they teach you is have your education so you can be financially free, and you can have that freedom that you want, and you can make the career choice and have that life that comes with all the bells and whistles. And they're really selling you freedom. And what you're talking about is a whole different type of freedom. How do you relate the two different types of education systems? And Farhan Quraishi Sahib, if I could ask you.
Well, yeah, as you said, their mission, their goal is totally different than ours. For example, their goal is to live the American dream, whereas for us, it's basically we want to spread the message of Islam and Ahmadiyya to the throughout the whole world. So when we have a different goal, I think that it changes perspectives. So whereas they're working for their family, for their children, we're doing that as well, but we're doing it in a more surreal or in a higher level. Whereas we're working for God, and God Almighty takes care of all of our needs and all of our demands.
Okay.
Well, we don't demand. Yeah.
I think, you know, this issue of freedom in the West, it's quite often it's raised, especially against Muslims. I think the real thing is that these people who are living in this society, they're also, you know, every human being has a cause. You know, it's either, you know, for us, we have surrendered our desires to Allah, but people in this society, they follow the desires that of their self. So they're not free in the truest sense, because they're following their personal desires or what their mind or heart is telling them constantly. And what we have done is, instead of following ourselves, we have followed God. So, you know, which is better for us, because what He's telling us to do is much better for us spiritually, and even in worldly terms, it's much better for us. So freedom, I don't think it exists in the real sense.
I just want to come back to you, because though that sounds easy, but how does one consistently stay? I mean, I'm sure there must be days where, you know, spiritually or you know, you feel a little bit shaken up. How do you stay on this course? Because Rabbi makes it sound, and I'm sure he's on that course, but for our viewers at home, you know, some of us have that tough journey. What do you do during times like that?
You know, it's a real problem. Not problem, but it's just, you know, part of the human psyche that sometimes we just get tired. You know, it's difficult to get up in the morning. It's difficult to just, you know, go through the grind of daily living, especially being a student, being a murabbi. We have our academic responsibilities. On top of that, there's coming to the mosque 5 times a day. There's jama'at duties. You know, there's the discipline that must be maintained at all times. Sometimes the grind really gets to you. In those difficult times, there's different outlets that at least I've experienced. Some of the more noticeable ones are sports. So in Jamia, there's mandatory sports every day, which is a great way to, you know, release some pent-up, you know, anxiety and stress that you have. But on top of that, I think the greatest thing that a lot of the guys in Jamia feel is that when, you know, you find all the doors are closed, you know, there's no escape. There's always the door of, you know, there's always dua, there's always prayer. That really gets a lot of the guys through those difficult times. You know, and then there's relying on, you know, your friends. There's reliance on, your brothers in Jamia. And, if you actually come to your brothers, if you come to your friends in Jamia, and you say, look, I'm having a difficult time, I just need to talk, or I just need, pick me up for, the next few hours. Every one of these people will sit down with you, make sure they'll cheer you up, they'll do whatever they can. And just having that support on both ends, from the people and from Allah Ta'ala, I think is what really
I want to ask you now, of course, you've been fortunate enough. Sounds like you've made a few friends here, so you're able to turn around and, make sure that they're able to pick you up, and I'm sure you return the favor. But is there any official program or system at Jamia that's set up to ensure that if you're going through a difficult time, they're there, they're a counseling system or anything like that today?
Well, in the day-to-day Jamia system, obviously they monitor your attendance, they monitor your health, they monitor your academics. So basically, if they see that there's a disruption somewhere, a student isn't coming into Jamia, he's coming in late many times, he's not showing up at his prayers, his academics have fallen, they'll usually call that student in for an interview, and it'll go through many different steps. Sometimes individual teachers will ask, sometimes the principal will ask, maybe if it gets really serious, a committee can sit down, they'll get the parents involved. So there is, a graduated system to, somehow to help the student with whatever he's going through.
Very interesting. And that being said, it's really unique learning about dedicating your life, the support system that you have around you. We are going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back to this dialogue.
An interlingual channel promoting interfaith dialogue. Worldwide, live and interactive. On satellite television and the internet. This is MTA International.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد.
Welcome back. Right before the break, we were talking about the support system that Jamia, especially here in Canada, has. And I want to take us straight away to my audience here in the studio. I want to I'll start with yourself. If you could talk a little bit about when times are kind of tough at Jamia, especially academically, if you're not doing too well in school, was there ever a time that you recall, and how you coped with it?
Yes, of course. It's almost like a regular institute. Ups and downs, they come and go. It happens, but there is a lot of support from the students. And as it was mentioned earlier, that in Jamia a brotherhood is created. And if I've experienced it myself, I had ups and downs, and especially the days where I didn't do good in my studies. My friends got together, all my classmates, and they taught me all their own techniques, and they told me how to study, and that helped me a lot, and it still helps me. But besides that, you have to, a student himself has to work on his own as well. That relationship towards God has to be there, because there are situations where no one can help you but God. And even in my interview, my teacher asked me that, what would you do in a situation when you're studying something and it just doesn't get into your head? You keep trying, you try different techniques, you seek help, it doesn't work. What would you do? So I thought about it for a long time. My answer, I didn't know what to say. My answer was dua. And they said that's the right answer. And I think that's the only way. And it's either brotherhood, and if not, the last thing we can do, and which is the best thing, is dua. And in order to ask God for something, that relationship has to be there.
Okay. And if we can get the mic up here, let's talk about these ups and downs, academically, personally. How do you cope with it?
Actually, I'll tell you my personal experience. In my first year, it was the last exam, science exam actually. And by that time, I was like, I have to go along with this for next 7 years. It's a long way to go. So how do you keep going with this? So I remember what Maulana Mubarak Ahmed Aziz said the very first day I came. He said that one thing you have to do when you're in Jamia is that hold on to that hand of Allah Ta'ala. As long as you have Allah Ta'ala with you, nothing can stop you. Nothing can break you. Nobody can remove you from your spot. And that inspired me. That grabbed me and picked me back up and said, okay, let's go. Keep going.
And has that stood true for you?
Yeah, for sure. Every year. Every time when I fall down, Allah Ta'ala picks me up. It's like, let's keep going. And this is the experience, not just me. A lot of other Jamia students feel too. They go through this every single day. And this is something which you will not experience as much in the outside life.
Okay, if we can get the mic up here, let's talk about those ups and downs. What are some of the challenges that you might have had to face?
Assalamualaikum. This is my first year in Jamia. I'm in Mamaida. So I've only been here for 4 months.
4 months?
Yeah.
Have there been already ups and downs for you?
Yeah. Well, some days you don't feel like following the schedule, right? So there's always ups and downs. And alhamdulillah, we're paired up with the Khamsa class, the 6th year students. So we have a lot of motivation from them because they've already been through our footsteps. So whenever we need help, we just ask them. They're basically tutors for us because they've already experienced whatever we're facing. So in that aspect, it helps a lot being with them. And there's various students in Jamia that I've talked to, and they basically say whenever you need help, our door's open, you come in and we could talk. So there's a brotherhood in Jamia. So whenever you're going through those ups and downs, you know that your brothers are there for you. Also, the teachers are very nice. Some teachers in the beginning of Jamia, we were a bit worried, right, through the studies. And they said, just come in our room whenever you want. We'll encourage you, and we'll always.
So you felt a really open door policy?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And Francis, I want to come to you. And one key thing that I keep hearing over and over, though I ask them about their ups and downs, is brotherhood. Brotherhood. That term keeps coming up. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, there is I think it's tangible, but it's also intangible at the same time. The brotherhood in Jamia. It's hard to describe it, but once you're in Jamia, you feel like surrounded by your brothers. And truly it is. It's like a very uplifting environment. And one of the ways that we have developed this environment is through like sports rallies and educational competitions. So in order to get out of the whole like vibe of like studies and exams, so what happens is the teachers and students, basically the students organize under the direction of our teachers, like competitions, for example, Tilawat competition, Nazm competition, between different groups that have been created within Jamia. So like each student has been assigned to 5 different tutorial groups, and they're like Amanat, Shajaat, Rafaqat, Sadaqat, Amanat, Diyanat. So, and these 5 groups basically compete between each other for an inter-tutorial group like cup, pretty much. So this is the same for educational as well as for sports. For educational, we get throughout the year, like from time to time, we have different competitions. There's some interesting competitions as well, like extempore speeches in Arabic and Urdu and English. So we have like all sorts of competitions, and that kind of gets you out of these like studying mode and like instills like a whole spirit of motivation within you. And I think that also helps to build the brotherhood that is so strong in Jamia.
Okay. As we're talking about the life as a whole of a Jamia student and that commitment, I don't think that life is complete without talking about life outside of the school itself. And I want to shift the conversation a little bit to that. If I can start with you about that, about the life outside of the educational parameters.
Yeah, well, outside of Jamia, our life, we spend our life in the hostel. The hostel life is amazing. It's really hard to describe it because just imagine you live with around 20 to 30, you live with 20 to 30 brothers of yours in one house, and there is no one who just stops you of doing things. Everything is in your own control. But in the meantime, you have to take control yourself as well. So you have to keep your limits. Now, the hostel life is not just there for fun. I mean, me personally and other people as well, we have a lot of fun. Hostel life is one of the best things that has ever happened to me in my life. But it's also a part of training. Because with the hostel life, we learn how to clean, for example. We give each other different duties. That's how we learn how to control other people as well, how to lead. We give each other other duties. For example, one guy cleans the washroom today, the other one cleans the kitchen. We learn how to cook, and we learn how to become independent. Besides that, we live so close to each other, and I think that helps us a lot, especially in the future, because in Jamia there's so many different personalities. Every kind of people come and go, and you have to learn how to deal with those people. And I think that helps Jamia student for the future a lot, because in the future we will have to lead nations, we will lead our own communities, and we have to learn how to deal with different personalities. And I think Jamia, and especially the host life, is the perfect opportunity to learn that.
And once again, you said that there's life outside of the school institution itself. It's in the hostel. If you can get the mic over here. A lot of people talk about, well, other institution, you can go out of the hostel and you do other things, but you talk about how amazing life is in the hostel, and that's one person's perspective, but I want to get yours. Is it really that amazing?
I actually would agree with it. All those rules that are set, like that discipline that's put upon you, it's for your training. But when you have those people, just similar to those in the military, they find that those in their squadron, they're so close to them. Why is that? Because they go through similar difficulties with them. No one knows a Jamia student better than another Jamia student, because they go through similar difficulties. So if you have a brother that can go alongside with you, you have someone you can vent to, you have similar problems. Of course, if you both get through it, if you all get through it together, no one will be as close to you as that person will. So I definitely agree with what he said.
Okay, if we can get the mic up here.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Another interesting fact that I would like to share is that Jamia encompasses all aspects of life, because as Jamia students, we're independent. We have no family figure here. Well, especially for me, I'm from Vancouver, so I have no one telling me what to do. So we have to budget our time. We have to do our own groceries. We have to clean our own houses. We have to iron our own clothes. So therefore, it's very independent at the same time, and you learn a lot from your independence.
Okay, and Azza, I want to come to you. How would you define that hostel life?
Hostel life, hectic, amazing, all these things, they just go hand in hand with each other.
Too many words describe it?
Yeah, it's everything that you would expect from if you just put 15 guys together in one hostel, right? So it's fun, right? But it's got its good moments. Sometimes it does get nerve-wracking, if there's too much noise, or people are talking and you're trying to sleep. So it's got its ups and downs, right? But just apart from hostel life as well, we're talking about sort of what Jamia offers you outside of the academic life. Hostel life is a big part of it, but on top of that, Jamia also provides many other things. For example, every year there's a trip for all of Jamia. So even last year, all of Jamia went skiing, tubing also, and apart from that, there's a picnic, a yearly picnic that happens. We go out to a beach or a park somewhere, and we all have a nice picnic together. Besides that, there's a lot of trips. Like one year we went for I think a 40-kilometer hike, and that was something that whoever participated in that hike will remember it, I think, to the day they die, because the day we were supposed to go, I don't think I've ever seen so much rain in my life, and we trekked through that for 40 kilometers to reach our destination. And things like this, these experiences that you have outside of your academic life, are things that stay with you.
Okay. But I want to come back to you. Do you feel like you're missing out on all the good action of the hostel days?
Well, I certainly remember the 40 kilometers walk. We walked from Peace Village to Bradford, which is a property that has been bought by Jama'at Canada for Jalsa Salana in the future, inshallah. And it was a good experience, definitely. And like Azhar said, that there are some ups and downs. But there are some good moments as well that you miss, like the fact that, you know, there's so many people living together. So, you know, we interact, and sometimes we joke around, and, you know, there's an environment where, you know, that is part of the social support that we were talking about earlier, that, you know, it helps you get through Jamia, and relieve some of the stress when you joke with so many other people who are going through the same experience. So alhamdulillah, it has its good side.
Farhan Qureshi Sahib, I want to talk to you about, we were just talking about life and you know, living together in the hostel environment. But what I want to ask you is the various different opportunities that come with being a Jamia student. I mean, though you're not a missionary, but any opportunities that you've been fortunate enough to be a part of?
By the grace of Allah, this year at Justice Salana, I was given the opportunity to speak at Justice Salana. I had a 20-minute speech, and similarly, one of my classmates also had an opportunity last year to speak at Justice Salana. Apart from that, we also regularly go out for tabligh in downtown Toronto. We also recently, just last month, we had this conference which was held in Roy Thompson Hall, which was at a large scale, and a lot of Jamia students helped out to organize that and to prepare the speakers for that. So,
so some really hands-on opportunities.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I want to come back to my audience here about those opportunities. If you know, I actually want to get the mic right back there. If you've been a part of any opportunities that you've been fortunate enough.
Just also being around the markaz itself and all the different activities that go on here. Being from a smaller jama'at myself, there aren't as many things that you are given the opportunity to be involved in. Whereas around here, even going to the mosque 5 times a day for prayers, and also being involved in the tabligh, as in the Sirat conference we held downtown. There's many different things that bring you closer to Jamaat, and you're fortunate enough to get be a part
great.
of.
Can we get the mic over?
I would like to share an experience. Last year, I believe, Jamia allowed us to hold an open house. Jamia told us, it's just you guys, do what you want, and hold an open house. So Jamia students got together, and we had barely a week to prepare for this open house at Bait al-Islam Mosque. We were given a $1,000 budget, and within a $1,000 budget, all students got together. They organized this event in such a way that by the end of the day, we had 137 guests who came to Bait al-Islam Mosque. And this was all by the grace of God, alhamdulillah. But the work which Jamia students put in was the practice, the training which they got from Jamia. We put all that in work, and the result was obviously great.
Okay, if we can get the mic back there.
Another thing that Jamia gives you the opportunity to do is learn many new skills. Because there's so many different people, there's a vast amount of skills that different people possess, and you can learn those skills from other people. Like, for instance, I remember in my second year, like, I love hockey, and a couple of guys in my class, we got together and we actually built an ice rink in the backyard of one of our hostels. And it gave us a good opportunity to learn these kind of skills that you wouldn't normally learn in the outside world.
Okay.
As the Waqf Arzi that we complete every year. So at the end of the year, during the summer, each student is assigned to go to different areas, you know, sometimes outside of the country. Some students go to the United States, some students, you know, they go to different parts of Canada, and they go there, they hold classes, they hold seminars. So this is another way that we kind of have experience in the real world or in the field.
So Franz, I want to come to you. There's this understanding that, you know, of course, as we look ahead and towards the future, a lot of the Murabbiyans, we have Farhan Iqbal Sahib with us, have the opportunity where they're on their laptops or their phones communicating with the rest of the world. Though Jamia students don't have cell phones, and that's often comes up, why Jamia students don't have cell phones, or just a mean of communication, laptop with them. Can you shed some light on that? Why is it that they don't have cell phones?
Well, we don't have cell phones because Hazur feels that as students, we don't really need cell phones. For example, we don't need to be texting or like talking to our friends hours on end, whereas we could use that time, utilize it constructively, and build on our skills as students or as athletes or whatever. So we use that time that we would have used on our cell phones or our laptops for more constructive things. Whereas we're building or honing our skills, we're more in touch with the world. And another thing is that laptops aren't allowed in the first 5-6 years, but once we start writing our thesis, we are allowed to use laptops. And we have a computer lab, which is updated. And so it's not really that we're not really out of touch with technology.
So there's a computer lab. You're not just deprived of technology.
We're not out of touch with technology. I think we probably know more than other people as well. So once we get back into the world after Jamia, we just take off right where we left off, pretty much.
Okay, sure. If we could just get the mic over there.
So jumping into my first year of Jamia and coming into this kind of environment where you're not allowed cell phones or laptops, whereas at home, you're used to carrying around a cell phone and texting and all that. So
about 4 months ago, you had a cell phone,
yeah,
and a laptop,
yeah,
and you don't anymore.
Yes, stripped of all the technology. But as you come into Jamia, the first month is kind of different. You're like, you're not used to, not having a cell phone and that. But after a while, you realize that, that time that you spent texting or going on a laptop and doing wasteful things, you could spend studying and improving yourself as a Jamia student. So I think that Hazur, he obviously knows best for Jamia students. So obviously what he said about having cell phones and computers is completely right. And that when we need laptops, which will be in the later years, 5th and 6th year, that in that time, we'll be able to have the opportunity to use them.
Sure.
I'd like to add, one of the things that, since we don't have laptops or we don't have cell phones, we're basically learning a unique way of, basically it's a unique style of learning. Whereas all our universities, all colleges, all the students are using these tools. But we're basically going back into the roots of what's more important in life, rather than basically we're not all involved in the cyber world, whereas we're more involved and more in touch with the real world. So I think that's one of the benefits as well. So it's a different style of learning, different style of teaching, training students.
Okay. So you wanted to add something?
Yeah. Adding to what Rashid have said, there's a deeper philosophy behind this, and it is that at the time of Holy Prophet ﷺ, we have to understand that the companions of Holy Prophet ﷺ went through a revolution. They let go of drinking, they let go of gambling, they let go of all those things, all those vain things in their life, and it was a hard thing for them to do. Similarly, this is something which they want us to do in this life as well. Letting go of cell phones, letting go of laptops. Try it out. How does it feel? Be trained for it. That only thing, at the end of the day, only thing which you do need is God. And this is what they're trying to teach us.
Okay, that's a good point. We can get the mic back here.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that it's not just that it's a complete shutdown. What it does, it's not that you don't completely get rid of it, in the sense of that now you learn how to discipline yourself. That when you're not there and you always have it, you don't realize how much of your time you waste. But when you step back from it and you see, okay, this is how much time I wasted, you could spend it otherwise. But also when you go back to it, you also be more productive. You can do the same things, but you'll just be more productive and within your limits.
Okay. So I want to come right back to you. We've had a really lively discussion, clearly a very engaged audience, and they were able to get us some really strong insight into what happens in the day of a life of a Jamia student. And Adisab, I want to come back to you for the viewers around the world watching this, learning about what Jamia Ahmadiyya Canada is all about. What would you say to them?
In a nutshell, basically, what Jamia Ahmadiyya Canada is about, I think, is, dedicating yourself to something more than yourself. So, we talked about this in the beginning as well. Most people are dedicated to themselves. Looking out for number one. What can I do to make myself more happy? What can I do to make more wealth for myself? When you dedicate yourself to a cause, you get so much more happiness. It requires discipline, yes, but through that discipline, you are given a freedom that most other people in the world can't enjoy. Like, for example, after going through all this training, there is discipline involved, yes, but at the end of the day, the freedom that you're given is that you can detach yourself, from the phones, from, the hectic lifestyle that other people are attached to and they can't leave. at the end of the day, you're given the freedom to connect with God, and through that relationship, you can. I believe that we can conquer the world with the information that we're given.
It's great. Farhan Karachi Sahab, could you shed some light on Jamia Ahmadiyya Canada? How would you, you know, if you had to break it down into a short summary to our viewers?
Jamia Ahmadiyya Canada is, I'd say that the defining feature of Jamia Ahmadiyya Canada is this brotherhood. We touched on it before as well. But I think it's just a strong part of Jamia that it just lifts everyone. And it, like, when you see each other, when you see like another person, one of your brothers is struggling, you lift him up and you take him along with you, just like a brotherhood, like in a war or in a battle. Whereas like you see your fallen brother, you pick him up and you take him with you. So like I think that the feature, the distinguishing feature of Jamia Ahmadiyya Canada is its brotherhood and its strong link between the students. And it's basically, that's what I think it is, yeah.
Okay. Rabbi Sahab?
Well, I think it's a very fulfilling experience and it's a very spiritual experience because the main purpose we all understand is to build a better relationship with Allah, and Jamia is a great place to do that. And also, if you want to build a really good relationship with the Khalifatul Masih, then Jamia is a great place to be. So I think, you know, in these couple of points, I would summarize Jamia. These are the two goals that Jamia helps you achieve.
Okay. And with that being said, we'll come to a conclusion of another amazing episode. We really hope that it gave you the insight and the information that you might have been looking for of what happens in Jamia, especially here in Canada. That being said, we love hearing back from the viewers at home. You can always visit the website. It's mta.tv/realtalk, or email us realtalk@mta.tv. Jazakallah.